Ready when you are, CB. Do I start in Canada or Mexico?
It's me and Animal Kingdom.
You really hate us?
This is Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank, and we are here for another episode of the podcast. And we have a great guest lined up to chat with here today. The last 4 months or so, I feel like we have started connecting with authors and past Disney executives in a whole new exciting way that's opened up to more nostalgic conversation, as it were. And also hearing how our guests have taken what they've learned and brought them out to the greater world.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, for us who we were there in a much shorter time frame than a lot of our guests have been there, but we still will often connect things that we saw and we learned and we experienced to everything we encounter. So it's great to see that those that have made a real career with Disney to then take and leverage everything they've learned in a whole new way.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave you to the actual introduction.
Me?
You made the connection. So,
Yeah.
and I will pass the baton to you to introduce our guest here on the podcast today.
Well, my LinkedIn connecting continues, and a lot of it happened all within a week or two where I just was making new friends and connecting over there. And this is yet another one of those connections. And today's guest is Chuck Salvo, and he has written a book. I'm not doing spoilers though. You know what? Because a lot of the times we set up these guests and we give the whole back. You know what? No, I want everyone to hear how he started, where he's from, how he got into it, and how it led to the book. But I'm a little extra excited, again, no spoilers, to talk about some of his career path because it's very intriguing to me personally. So
what we're saying here is that Frank has given really long introductions to previous guests. And...
No.
No, but let's bring in Chuck right now. Chuck, welcome to Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz.
Thank you, Jen and Frank. Great to be here.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Frank gets a little long-winded, but not really. But, I also don't want to give too much away because I want to hear it all from you directly. So I'm so excited that you're here, and thank you for connecting, and thank you for being here today.
Back at you. I appreciate it, Jen. Thank you.
Well, I know you're currently in Florida. You reside in Florida. Have you been a Floridian all your life? I guess would be my opening question.
No. Actually, I was born in Pennsylvania, in coal country, actually, in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania.
Nice. Yes. Very nice. So then how did you get from Pennsylvania to Florida?
Wow. It was a journey, south, I would say, would be the easy answer. But
yeah. 95. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it was more of I actually went to culinary school.
Oh, nice.
And I started out in the fine dining business. And then I started working for companies like Hershey and Hilton and Hyatt. And I was actually an intern down in Florida in the early 80s. And at local hotels affiliated with Disney. And then it just kind of evolved. So I started my career in the Poconos at ski resorts, and then went to another ski resort and a golf resort, and then was really, really cold and decided to go to Hilton Head for about 10 years, South Carolina, and worked for a beautiful golf and resort called Sea Pines Resort at Harbor Town. And then, around 2005, got a phone call from the Mouse, and we started talking. And I always say 3 trips to Orlando and 23 interviews later, I became part of the Disney family.
No, it's not a quick interview process with Disney. What do you mean?
It was quite intense. The role I was going into was very unique, and I just happened to have all the skill sets they were looking for. So I was able to join that family.
That's awesome. did you grow up with a connection to Disney at all? Like, were you big on the movies? Did you visit the parks growing up?
Yes, I mean, my dad was actually in the airline industry, so we were able to travel for free on planes.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was 5 years old, a long time ago, we went to Disneyland, and so I had just incredible memories of the Matterhorn and the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and and all that. So then I decided to go to culinary school, and I was down here in Orlando for that. And then I had a daughter, and so my wife and my daughter brought her down here when she was about 5 or 6 years old in the early '90s, and then, like I said, 2005. I was here actually working with the Disney Institute and the Disney Event Productions.
That's
That's awesome. A couple of things that I just want to touch on. We mentioned there may be tangents prior to us recording this. So first thing is, since we're in New York, Jen's out on Long Island, I'm in Queens. But growing up, we had a lot of Poconos based commercials on our TV viewing. So
yes,
Chuck, if you could, I mean, if it's a no, we can move on quickly. But you didn't work at the Mount Airy Lodge, did you? Because that would be everything right now.
I did not. However, I did some consulting for them right before I left the Poconos, so I knew the whole program very well. In fact, I worked for Caesars in the Poconos.
Oh, wow.
And so we knew, because of the nature of that resort, they knew that many people would not see what they saw in the commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And so we knew that if we were about 10% not full on a weekend, that we would fill up just by people who decided not to stay at that resort because it was all about the commercials,
Yeah.
Beautiful Mount Airy Lodge. See, how was that? That bring back memories, Frank?
Oh, you have to bring.
Yeah. Oh no, you sound like a real singer, Jen.
Well.
That's awesome. Oh, the Mount Airy Lodge. Love it. And then just to mention, I'm not a beach person, but the one true beach vacation, because everyone else in my family is beach people. I love the Hilton Head area. It is like one of my favorite beaches to go to, because I don't know what it is. It's the perfect amount of beach community. I'm not even a golfer, but I really love it down there.
Yeah, no, gorgeous. And the way Hilton Head has designed the product to really live amongst the nature of it. Everything there kind of has to blend into the nature. It was absolutely beautiful. And again, I've been very blessed to be a resort specialist and live in all sorts of great resorts during my career.
Yeah, that's really cool. Also, just another tangent here. Frank and I are 7.5 years apart, but we had the same guidance counselor in high school. And she gave us both a test to see, what we should be when we grew up. And we both got hotel management. And we were both told, you guys should go to Johnson and Wales and be hotel managers. Separate, a very far, he's much older. And yet this was our career path. Neither of us took that career path, but there is still like this, that would have been cool. I would have enjoyed that maybe a little bit. But I mean, do you, having come from the resort world and kind of staying in that a little bit with Disney, but do you think you still hold a special place in your heart for those times, or?
No. I mean, it is still a passion of mine. I have another website called Salvo Lifestyles, where I do critiquing and share recipes and all that. So yeah, I mean, it never goes out of your blood. And I just love the hotel business and the resort business. And I was just lucky to be able to have people see something in me that allowed me to continue to progress in different ways and learn different things. But I'm still just a cook at heart.
Love it.
What was the year you said you went down and started working with Disney after the 27 interviews?
2005 is when I started.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the mid 2000s is an interesting time for us. We joke about it a lot here. That's post our Disney time, but really,
not mine. That's right in the
that's
middle of
great.
my time.
Oh, yeah?
That's right. That's right in your wheelhouse. That's
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
But for the company at the time, there was just I mean, we did a lot of transitions in Disney history for the parks too, but especially in terms of food, I feel like post 2005, like you had California Grill, you had Ohana, but then I feel like the mid 2000s, they really suddenly you got loads of greater dining experiences during that time.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, when I first went down there, that was one of the things that I thought I was going to have to put aside because I was thinking of park food. And the quality of the culinary experience at Disney just went through the roof. The chefs there are extraordinary. Number one location for sommeliers in the world.
Oh wow!
In a single source property.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number one, wine buyer of South African wines because of the Animal Kingdom. I mean, and the food, the creativity was just through the roof. So that always blew me away because you think of the park and you think of park food, but then no, I mean, some of the restaurants are just crazy. I mean, is wonderfully, and the service experience and the quality. I mean, it's just top notch.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite restaurant?
Oh, golly. I think the restaurants over at Animal Kingdom Lodge are some of my favorites. I think I'm blanking out on the one over in Wilderness Lodge. I think it might have closed actually, but it was a beautiful one that was overlooking it was more of the high end one. Over there.
Yeah.
Norcusi's, of course. I mean, like I said, but even in different varieties and different levels, there's so many unique ones over in the different Disney timeshare properties and Disney Vacation Club, I should say.
Yeah.
No, I love that going down there with the park food and really having your mind shift a little bit. But what did you think arriving there that you were like, here's what's about me and this is what I'm bringing to Disney and what I have to offer? Like what did going into it? What did you like? I'm here to contribute. This is what you're going to get from me.
Well, I was brought into a unique position. So it was called the Disney Event Productions, the Disney Event Group. Disney Institute was part of that. So they were looking for somebody who had culinary background, had event background, had adult education background. So it was very interesting how I came to my role because my role was empty for about a year because they couldn't find somebody with all the skill sets they were using. Yeah. And I happened to be down at a convention in Miami, and as fate would have it, a buddy of mine was literally at a restaurant sitting next to some Disney people, and they were talking about it, having the hard time they were having this. And my buddy walked over to them and said, "I'm sorry for eavesdropping, but there's a guy here this week that has all those skill sets." Wow. Because I was able to do team building courses where I was at, and orienteering courses and ropes courses, and I did a major golf tournament at Hilton Head and major events with Hershey, and so they said, you got to talk to this guy, and I promised I would never move from Hilton Head till my daughter graduated high school. Mm-hmm. And it was funny. This was literally at the point of her graduation. In fact, when they called and gave me the final offer, I wasn't home. And back then we had a thing called answering machines.
Right.
You remember those?
That tape thing.
Yeah. And I came home and my daughter was just stomping her feet with just ready to just get mad. And when were you going to tell me you were leaving? So that's how right at that point, I moved to Disney.
The plot twist.
Wow. That's so crazy though. That's awesome that's how it all came about, to be like, I hear you guys talking. I have the perfect guy for this.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
You got to take those moments when they're just meant to be. Yeah. And I never looked back. It was just an incredible experience.
That's so cool.
So your time at Disney, tell me about maybe and we're gonna get to the book. We're gonna get to it. No spoilers.
okay, Frank,
Jen didn't
we're
want
good.
spoilers. You share a lot of Disney stories in your book,
Mhm.
and when did you realize, like, I got to remember this moment? This is something that hasn't happened, in other places before. This seems very, Disney centric. Like, when did you start feeling that and those moments happening?
Feeling those moments of Disney, or that
Yeah,
brought me
just
to the
that
book?
that you were someplace different and you wanted to hold on to these things and like almost collect the memories, as it were.
Oh golly. I mean, I think, and you all know as cast members that traditions was like the
Mhm.
first experience you have.
Yeah.
And that's that culture, that idea that company, you don't even go to your location of work, you go to traditions first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then I always tell people that my traditions, everybody always remembers, and I'm going to ask you guys, see if I stump you a little bit. But the people at my table at traditions, I had an owl trainer, I
Okay.
had a roller coaster engineer,
Okay.
I had a housekeeping person, uh, I had a wide world of sports athlete
Mhm.
that was going to be
Wow.
there, and myself,
Yeah.
who was going to be in the Disney event group
Yeah.
and Disney Institute. So, I mean, I always remember that diversity and the fact that we weren't set aside and made to think about our own little area. That they, if you remember at traditions, they really taught. I mean, you really went there to learn the culture of Disney.
Yeah.
We create happiness,
Mhm.
the 4 keys,
Mhm.
right? The behaviors that go along with it, how to do the Disney scoop, how to do the Disney point, right?
Right. Yes.
And how to, and then we got our name tag from Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And so talk about really making sure that you remember something. And I teach companies about that all the time, that, everybody thinks of the interview process and the orientation process
Mhm.
as like compliance nowadays, right?
Mhm.
You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this.
Mhm.
And I say to them,
Yeah.
no, people are looking for experience.
Yeah.
You want to build super fans from pre-day one, to
Yeah.
your organization. And so to answer your question, Frank, in a very long-winded way, it was from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I was technically third party, so I was an operating participant. So I went through traditions, but it was like a shortened version of
Yeah.
traditions. But I always found that interesting, that in the way you're talking, you have all these people in different roles. You're still learning the same core values of the company, and you're still starting in the same boat together. And for me, I had a name tag. To the guests, I was no different than anyone else.
Exactly.
So, of course, I had to know that I was on stage, and of course, I had to know how to point and do all the things, because no one would know any different. And it is even unique in that sense, where I'm not working directly for Disney, but they're still treating me like I am and expect me to
Mhm.
perform as though I am.
Well, think of the simplicity and the brilliance in what you just said. See, I called you brilliant, Jen. You didn't know
I'm
it.
like, "What? I don't what are you saying?"
But if you think about that, right? I teach organizations about that also, because they have all these vendors that are representing them, but
Yeah.
then they don't make sure that they are held accountable to that same
Mhm.
understanding of what their culture is.
Right.
And
Yes.
and so when you think about that and you really train everybody the same way that is going to represent you,
Mhm.
and it's amazing how people don't do that. In fact, very small amount of corporations and organizations realize that it's so important to make sure that the entire organization has an equal set of common purpose and standards, and then the behaviors, although they're all aligned, they you could then be a little bit more specific
Yeah.
to your general area or the work that you're going to.
Yeah.
But boy, that common purpose and those standards,
Yeah.
they need to be consistent.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes you feel like one big team, and you're all part of the same, you have the same goals. Where were you kind of stationed at the Disney Institute? Where did you work out of?
Well, the Disney Institute, when I got there, wasn't a place anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It became the whole Disney World and Disneyland, for that matter, and then afterwards, the whole world became the canvas for the Disney Institute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I was stationed at Disney Event Group, which was a magical building where we brought people who were going to have weddings or events, or or even people who were trying to come in and fulfill a fantasy, a Disney fantasy. Like people would come and say, well, we want to be in Alice in Wonderland, or we want to be in Peter Pan, and we would actually transform locations. Or I remember transforming the entire ballroom into the Haunted Mansion. So I was walking down the hall, and this is nothing, you don't even find this at Disney. And I remember walking through with one of my clients, and the florist was behind me saying on the telephone, "Yes, I mean 1,000 dead black roses." Yes, dead. Yes, right. Dead roses. I mean, so where else would you find something like that? And then for companies to want to come and be educated on how the business behind the magic, if you will, was another great honor I was able to be part of.
Yeah. So sorry to just keep talking, Frank, over, I'm now in the event space that, so I worked in the IBM exhibit in Innoventions, and I did a lot of events on property, and
tons. Yeah.
Eventually I was like a hospitality assistant. So I was kind of the liaison between Disney and, IBM a lot, and we kind of had our own small event space. But my favorite thing was going into Epcot or maybe some of the hotels for the events themselves, because I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Do you have a favorite event space on property?
Oh, golly. I mean, to be able to, think about that, to be able to transform a park into an event space, and the fact that you really couldn't close the park until like toward the end of the evening. So these events would happen like at 9:00 after fireworks, or maybe they'd do a slightly earlier close for something like that. And we would literally, like, one event, we had a family, a very affluent family, who loved the play Newsies, which was a Disney play. Yeah. And we literally transformed the streets of America into a live stage. So instead of being like in Broadway where you'd be on a stage, literally the entire streets of America, we staged Newsies on.
That's so cool.
The entire play.
I wish they had done that every day.
I know.
I wanted them to do that from the jump. I wanted the streets of America to look like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all sorts of fireworks presentations and private events. Fort Wilderness was a great place to have events. But really, I mean, think about it. With all the theming, I mean, how else could you do theming like that in the event world, right? You can't. Yeah. So we had the best backdrops ever.
That's so cool.
I'm waiting for Jen to
think
of more events.
I will not nerd out more. I mean, maybe, but no.
You can nerd as much as you want.
Yeah.
I think this is a fine opportunity to start talking about the book, because I really, just in terms of you talking about traditions from the jump and working with clients and putting on events for groups, that your book, which is RAVE, which stands for Respect and Value Everyone, but the book title is RAVE, How to Respect and Value Everyone, A Journey of Life Lessons from Disney and Beyond. Obviously, we love this. We love the positivity. We love, we think we're jaded New Yorkers growing up, kind of thing. So Disney kind of helped alleviate some of that.
Yeah.
Traditions kind of help that. But I know from my time at Disney, when people ask me, "Oh, what was it like to work at Disney?" and what kind of people did you work with? And I liked everybody I worked with in Disney. Like it's a rare thing. And I think what you were saying about traditions and getting everyone on that same plane, what is like kicked a little bit in my brain of like, you know what? I think I liked everybody I worked with. There's nobody I didn't like while I was there. And it was a good 3+ years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Where did you come up with the acronym, I guess, and the idea of value and seeing that value in everyone?
The acronym actually came from when I went to Traditions. They actually had a section of the course called RAVE. It wasn't like this. I actually have trademarked it since and done some different things. Mine's totally different from that. But I remembered it was very it transformed me. It really did as part of Traditions. And it's one of the things I would say. Disney's had some hills and valleys over the years, as every corporation has had over the last couple of years. And I always felt that, when they stopped teaching rave, that was one of the things that I wish they would get back to in that regard. So I had a client of mine. It was a top food and beverage company with thousands and thousands of restaurants all across the world. And their leadership group, one of the owners and operators of a franchise came in and said, Chuck, we have a group of individuals, leaders. They are all sorts of culturally different. They are they're Egyptian, they're African American, they're Latin American, and they're about to kill each other. And this was right after COVID. And so all the social political stuff was going on. COVID was going on. And so, of course, my answer was going to be, are you kidding me? I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then I started thinking about rave because it's always been in my process. And it was very informative to my soul. And so I said, maybe this could be a way to just save the world a little bit in a very small way, one step at a time. So I designed this course called Rave, How to Respect and Value Everyone. And I went and presented it to this group of leaders. And it blew my mind because the owner was there. He was extraordinarily wealthy. And he had this high demographic group in the room. And then you have these cultures that I had mentioned. Yeah. And just by giving them simple ways to learn how to talk with one another, to share things and find out that they were closer than they realized. Yeah. That by the end of the sessions, they were walking out with their arms around each other. I'll never forget the owner who was had like a fleet of race cars, really hooked up with this dishwasher who really loved cars also. And they're good friends to this day. And then as we were driving home that night with the owner, I said, what'd you think about it? He said, blew my mind. I always am so scared to tell, to brag about my wealth, And I said, do you think that they don't know you're wealthy? But by sharing, this, now they become friends, and they jumped over those differences they had and found a way to bond together. So I kept doing these for universities and for other businesses and other groups and every type of company you could possibly imagine. And so I said, man, this got to be a book.
And I mean, when you developed the course, was it easy to translate from course to chapters, let's say, or did you feel like you needed to restructure? What were some of the early, I guess, storytelling elements that you needed to create to get it into book form?
Yeah, for me, it was it was difficult. It took about 2 years. It was kind of cathartic because for me, it first started as a business book. But then as my wife and my daughter read it, they're saying this really is good for anybody. Yeah. And really, again, when you look at the world and the media, where if you look at TV, you think everybody is like here and here, right? And really, they're more like here and here. And there's differences, but they're not as vast as people think they are. So I said, yeah, you're right. And so I edited the book to be more individual stories. I also, in today's day and age, I also wanted it to be very short. I wanted to be able that you could read it in a couple hours in one sitting if you wanted to. I wanted to be practical, that you could react to it and actually go and do the things I say. And I wanted to be a little bit funny too. So I tried to put in some fun and some humor to match, hopefully, my personality. I hopefully not bored you completely.
Yeah, no, and that's and kind of how, your clients found those common grounds with each other, or, you pointing out, do you think people don't know you're wealthy? But in that same way, you're sharing your own stories, which I think is also connecting people to you personally, which also helps them understand what you're trying to convey and the message you're trying to convey. And like you said, you're trying to bridge those gaps that are a little more difficult as of late. Yeah.
I call it like virtually breaking bread together. Even some of the exercises in it that I talk about is I simply ask like Jen and Frank, like, do you have like a food that, I mean, you're from New York, right? So what food did you like grow up with that you just love that bring back great memories?
Yeah, pizza. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and it's the best pizza in the world, and cold water. Yeah,
right.
I get it.
Right,
I get it.
Right down the block.
So I have people like I ask questions similar to that, and it's amazing how that just melts away tension. Because the whole. And you wouldn't talk about, everybody thinks you shouldn't be talking about. Remember when we were kids, when you were growing up, you're told don't talk politics, finance, any of that stuff. You don't need to start off a relationship, with the volatility that's out there in the world. You start off by virtually breaking bread. Talk about hobbies or music or the different things that bring people together. And then maybe later on, you've earned enough credibility that if you want, you could have some deeper conversations. But even there, I say in the book that, golly, I wouldn't know. Some of my best friends are so totally opposed to some of the things that I'm for, and vice versa to me. But I've learned so much from them, and I become a better individual, and I wouldn't know what it would be if they weren't in my life. And what I would have missed if, with this herd and the crowd thinking, this herd thinking that happens nowadays, I really wanted people to say, hey, really, let's just save the world one relationship at a time, right? And if we learn how to, if I learn about Jen, I learn about Frank, and you learn about Chuck, then we're going to, it's going to be easier for us to get along than if we just prejudge people and their who they are and what they are. Now, is that pretty Disney or what?
One of the early chapters of the book is about emotional connectivity, and so which as you kind of gave me a little bit of a segue there into it, where not just the current climate of the world, but also social media kind of put some boundaries on us, and not, email put a boundary on us because we didn't pick up the phone anymore, text messaging, all these things over the years have created boundaries that don't necessarily have to be volatile boundaries or anything like that. How do you, person to person, talking like this or in person, what have you, what are the challenges? What are the obstacles? What do you suggest? How do we get back to that emotional person to person connectivity?
Yeah, I mean, going back one chapter, chapter one, I've said before that, it's treat others the way you want to be treated. I mean, it's a golden rule. I mean, I even joke in the book that says that, I was going to actually just end right there and the rest of the pages will be blank, because if you really kind of just thought about that and treat others the way you want to be treated, you could solve a lot of problems. But to your point, Frank, that emotional connection is important. How you really show genuine care with one another. And the book goes on to teach people, about how to build relationships, how to understand what your personality is. How do you try to identify what that other person's personality is? And I even give a quiz that you can go take in the book. And then how to really respect the fact that, if, say, for example, Frank, I'd say you're an analytic. You're not, by the way, you're an expressive. Okay, both of you are very expressive, I can tell. But let's say you're an analytic and I'm an expressive.
Mhm.
If you're an analytic, you're going to want me to give you more detail.
Mhm.
So I need to respect that. And I know when we're having a discussion about something that it's important for me to actually lay out more detail. As an expressive, you just need to let me go.
Yeah.
Or if I was a driver, I want to know it pretty quick. Just give me the solution, right?
Mhm.
Just go right to the solution. Or if I'm an amiable, I want you to spend some time getting to know me a little bit better and my family and what's going on in our lives. So
Yeah.
understanding all those and simply respecting what you think the other person might be, or how the other person might want to act. And there's this real crazy idea that I have in there that if you want to know how they want to be communicated to, let's see, how's it go? Ask them.
Mhm.
But through all the COVID and the telephone and social media and the social economic disrest, people have become so afraid to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm trying to break out with this, is to have people realize that it's okay to risk and go out there and try to meet somebody,
Yeah.
because really they're so afraid they're going to offend, or they're
Mhm.
so afraid they're going to say something wrong. And so the techniques I teach in this book are just like the virtual breaking bread, very light techniques
Mhm.
to just get people back out there again, and not afraid of interacting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, there's pros and cons with social media or this virtual world. It's great that we're able to talk to you because this exists, this virtual way of communicating, but there's obviously the challenges with it as well. And I think, we've been doing the podcast since 2018, but I think we feel like a lot of it really got its push in 2020 when everyone was home more,
Yeah.
and we were using this platform as a way to communicate with others, as a way to meet more people and new people. And it also built our community that we have found because of this podcast, and the common denominator of Disney and what it means to everybody, and that connectivity that, you know, I don't know that everyone we've met from the podcast, would we have ever met them? Would our personalities ever align in different situations, whatever it is? But because of this community that we have found, it works. And I'm thankful for it because we've met so
Sure.
many great people because of it.
Yeah, don't hide from it. I mean,
Yeah.
the social media and the internet, and now AI,
Yeah.
moving
Oh, yeah.
forward, wonderful tools. The
Mhm.
key is to make sure that you you control it.
Yeah.
Don't let it control you,
Right.
right? And if you go back to that golden rule we just talked about,
Mhm.
and you let that kind of stop, take a breath when you're about to do keyboard courage, and about to slam somebody, or about to say,
Yeah.
stop a moment and
Mhm.
just, is that the way I'd want to be treated?
Right.
How can I soften that? How could I say, please and thank you?
Mhm.
Even in virtual world,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't go to the grocery store and jump in front of the line and somebody in a checkout. And I'd say the vast majority of the people wouldn't either. Yet
Mhm.
when we have virtual courage, keyboard courage,
Yeah.
it's amazing what we will do sometimes, and
Mhm.
we just gotta just stop it.
Just yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, for me, like as much as I'm expressive, I am also introverted in person, right? So I used all those things over the years from I was so happy when AOL happened and there was instant messaging and email, because I didn't have to pick up a phone and call somebody or talk to them direct. But now looking back, and again thinking about my time at Disney, where like I think I had a lot of moments with cast members at Disney in the work that I did. I don't know if we ever got to recognize it for the moment it was and realize the connections that we were making. I feel, in the moment, probably, but looking back on it, I'm like, oh, did I take that in to the fullest extent that I did? So now, thinking about as Jen was saying, with this forum and the way we've been connecting with listeners and guests all over, it's now thinking about like, okay, I got to work. I want to really work on what we're connecting to. And yeah, I think it does. It's just like taking that risk. It's an improv term that my friends and I dare to suck. If
Dare to
doesn't
suck.
work
I
out,
love
that's
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's dead on, Frank. I mean, it's such a great statement. In fact, you should. I don't know if you guys have trademarked that, but that's a good one.
Somebody must have, I think.
Yeah.
But it's so true. But one thing that you guys, I think, have realized through these conversations and through your time at Disney is that it's amazing when people ask me questions now, like you guys have been asking me, and I'll give that answer, and I'll be like, who said that? I mean, it's amazing how it's prepared us for life. It's amazing that philosophy of that service structure, that attitude that they gave you, I mean, is so valuable. I mean, and then with me on top of it, I got to work with all these incredible corporations across the world to teach them the business behind the magic. So when I went off on my own, it was just, I couldn't have had a better master's degree. I don't have a master's, but boy, I mean, I learned what Disney did, but then I learned what all these incredibly great companies did in just about every business you could possibly think of. So I tell people, because they ask me all the time if they're going on their own or going out into the real world. And I just say, just really have confidence in the fact that you have been taught more than you ever realize until you get out there. And then they'll always call me a year later or so and say, oh my golly, I really am. I really am confident. I do know the answer to these things. And that's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, something I don't know that I've thought about before, but because of this conversation, it just popped in my head is, as you're going through traditions or just learning the way of Disney, I do think one of those core things, which is not something they're saying out loud to you, but because you know that you have to take this certain approach with guests, you are stopping and thinking before you talk, right? So if a guest is coming up to you and they're yelling at you because of a ride being down, or maybe they're just looking for the bathroom, or they're asking you the same question you've been asked 100 times today, whatever it is, because you need to then answer in the certain way, it does make you go, take that breath and stop and think. And to your point of, getting back to basics, something like that, where just stop and think before you say something, or stop and think before you have an answer or a comment or whatever it is.
Yeah. And what's the meaning behind the question? We would always laugh because the number 2 question at Magic Kingdom, I'm sure you've heard that. What is the number 2 question at Magic Kingdom?
Is it when's the 3:00 parade?
Yeah.
Or
what time's the 3:00 parade? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the outside world, and you guys are from New York, you want to say, what do you mean? 3:00,
You just said it. What do you mean?
Yeah. And I'm sure in New York you have different verbs. However, what the person, you're right, Jen. We stop and think about, because we've learned a different way because of that framework. First of all, what's our common purpose? We create happiness, right? And then we have a construct of how to operate: safety, courtesy, show, efficiency, right? In that order.
Yeah.
So that, okay, to learn that, okay, a person's probably safe, but so now I need to be courteous. Let me ask some more questions, or let me try to think. He's probably wondering, what time does the parade go by right where I'm standing? Is this a good place to stand? Right? Am I going to miss something? Am I not going to miss something? So that's what a learning that is alone, to realize that there's a question behind the question.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about listening as we're doing here, and just I think I say this because I was at a conference recently, and one of the workshops that stood out to me was de-escalation, and it's funny how when you get presented with the tools of de-escalation, it's really what everyone should just be doing to connect. It's breathing, it's taking a move to the thought, it's to listen, because it just brings everything down, and it gets to a more connective tissue between. I really like that you talk about building bridges, right? So in some ways, like, instead of boundaries, bridges, right? That, what do you, can you give me an example of a time where you didn't know a bridge was needed, but a bridge it was created based on the tools you've used, and what you value and how you value others, where I wasn't expecting to build this bridge, but here I am.
Yeah, I mean, you were asking about emotional connection, and I believe that's where I tell this story in the book, and it's an incredible story. I was as Disney cast members, you have a perk, you can take your family in the park. So I'm dressed in civilian clothes, outside the park, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this situation with a Disney greeter, a young Disney greeter, and this family, and this young man, more of an adult man. Definitely with intellectual challenges, and the parents, and the man is crying, and because he lost his ticket, and I'm sitting there in disbelief and watching the greeter telling them, "Oh no, you need to go buy a new ticket," because he lost his magic band, to get in. Yeah. And so he says, you need to go over there to the ticket booth, and that's where you can get a new ticket. You need to buy a new ticket. And you can tell the parents are distressed. The young man is just beside himself. And so I go over, and I'm in civilian clothes, and I just, all I said is, listen, I'm a leader here at Disney, and I just want to let you know that you can resolve this right now. I said, you can give him a ticket. And he goes, what? And I said, yeah. And I said, remember your training? I said, you can make this magic moment. You could give him a ticket. And I said, and he said, well, won't they? He said, no, they won't question you. Now, I don't know any of this. Okay. Yeah. I think I know it because I've been trained to know it. Right. Yeah. But so I sit down and I watch. I said, now go grab them before they get to the ticket booth. And he runs. I get emotional on this one. Speaking of emotional connection. So he runs to this family, and he stops and he says, I'm sorry. He said, I'm going to get you a free ticket. I'm going to get it. They're not a free one. I'm going to replace your ticket. And all of a sudden he wraps his arm around them, and they wrap in this incredible group hug, and I could just see the smile on this young man's face, and this fear in my back of my mind saying, oh golly, I hope his leader does not, chastise him for doing this. But I knew in my heart of hearts, he wouldn't be. In fact, he would be recognized for doing that, for caring about our guest and caring about one another. And so that was just an incredible emotional moment to me. But it's amazing that if you just, I think you said it, Frank, in the seminar you're just in, stop and listen, right? And then just do the right thing. Right. And what Disney has allowed over the years is really a teaching of it's okay to do the right thing. Like we always taught kind versus kind. I'm sure you heard the story many times. You drop the ice cream cone, you replace the ice cream cone. Right. You don't drop the ice cream cone and give them a free cruise on Disney. So it's kind versus kind. But when I talk to organizations about something like that, they're so afraid that their employees are going to give away the store. In reality, it's the opposite. It's harder to get the employees to know it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
And they're going to protect you. They want to protect you. That your paycheck comes from them. Yeah. But by teaching them that it's okay to stop and listen and really resolve the situations. Through listening and genuine care, how can you go wrong? Yeah.
And it's such a perfect example of, from the guest side, that's such a magical moment for them, right? And for the cast member, it's such a great learning experience for him too, of just realizing he is empowered, realizing it's okay to do the right thing, taking accountability to be like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have sent you that way. I'm taking care of this. And there's so many lessons in that for him as well. And so it's like,
Yeah, Jen, I would even push back a little bit more and saying it was a magical moment for him also.
exactly.
And you know what? It was for me also.
Yeah,
I mean, look at me. I'm almost crying on screen here, It was a magical moment for me also.
Yeah.
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 And now I have these beautiful grandchildren.
Mhm.
I have a 8-year-old grandson who has autism. I have an 11-year-old granddaughter, so Neelan and Peyton, because they'd say, "Papa, you got to make sure you say my name on." But this was the legacy that I wanted to really bring across with the book. That's what really drove me to do it. Is them and my daughter, and for them, I was starting to see a world where it became so angry. And I just wanted to do my part so they see a world of kindness.
Yeah.
So now that the book has been out, it's out there in the world, and where are you taking? What's next steps? Where do you see it evolving from here? The whole idea.
Well, it's amazing. The reaction's been fabulous, which I'm just so heartened by. So the logo behind me, I'm actually going to be launching a merchandise store because so I have some teddy bears and I have some shirts and hats and different things and mugs but it's people were asking me, wow, that I really love a mug with that, or I really love a T-shirt that says respect and value everyone.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I'm working on now is a children's book to how to respect and value everyone that I'm actually writing with my granddaughter. And then and then we're also going to do a teen version. And I'm working with my daughter, who is a third grade teacher, to come up with some classroom teaching plans and how you can bring this into the classroom and utilize it there. So hopefully it has a long life. And then this has only been a couple months since I released it. So it's still a very fresh journey. So now thank you for allowing me to help promote it a little bit.
For sure.
I love that this has kind of been a launching pad platform for you, as it were, and you're seeking to expand it out in all these exciting ways. And again, just really promoting it with the positivity and the idea of respect and value. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but it's still great to get it out there and get it in your own way and with your own passion behind it. I think it's really nice. It's special.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
So
I will leave you with this opportunity to plug at will, whatever website you have, wherever we can find your book on the Amazon. I know it's there, but fire away and share all the things you want to share.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, as Jen knows, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so you can definitely link into me. I'd love you all to link into me because I do write a lot of articles and different things that are on there along with the book. You can find the link to the book there. The book is on Amazon and it's Rave, How to Respect and Value Everyone, or just look up Chuck Salvo and it's there. I'm not the other Pastor Chuck Salvo that's on Amazon. I'm the one with the Rave book, which is okay, and also Salvo Innovative Solutions is my we didn't talk about what my title is for my company. I'm a chief happiness architect.
I love it.
Perfect.
So that's what I do as my day job. I go around and help organizations find organizational happiness. So I'm a chief happiness architect. So you can find me there. Listen, nowadays, just Google me. Or the other day, I chat GPT'd myself and I or grokked myself. It sounds really horrible, but it's actually okay. And then I'm on X under at Salvo Lifestyles, or Stay Positive is my handle on there. So as we see each other online, please do that. And please share positive stories with me, because I'm really out there trying to push and share positive stories that will really help the world find happiness.
Love that.
As the first chief happiness architect we have ever had on the Theme Park Thursday podcast, Chuck. Thank you so much for coming on and talk to us about just your experiences. Because I mean, we even love the fact that you were at Poconos and Hershey, like all that stuff is awesome too. And talking to us about the book, and hopefully along the way we can chat again sometime.
Oh, anytime. It's been a real pleasure. It's great to get to know both of you. You exude happiness, so keep doing what you're doing.
Well,
Thanks, Chuck. We don't take compliments well. Thank you.
you're talking about a good day, Chuck. Thanks, Chuck.